The birds weren't singing. Written by Shibacki. It wasn't the atmosphere you expect. The sun was shining and the sky was a beautiful blue, but the birds weren't singing. The air was fresh, but the birds weren't singing. It was summer, but the birds weren't singing. There weren't even any signs of animal life. It didn't feel wrong, but it didn't feel quite right. Kind of like staying up late as a kid, even when your parents told you not to. All through my teenage years, my mom and I lived in a rural area of Tennessee. Known for its historical Civil War sites, most of these are nowadays restricted from the public. But back then, the local museum groups were more focused on preserving World War II artifacts. It wasn't uncommon to run into the foundation of an old Confederate structure if you go a bit off some of the forest paths. These were pretty cool to find, and I'd be out hitting the trails almost every day as a kid, just to see if I could find any cool relics in them. On one walk, I made a bit of an adventurous decision to follow a different route. As I said, the sun was shining and the sky was blue, but the birds weren't singing. It was quiet. Not eerie quiet, just quiet enough for you to stop and think about how you haven't seen any squirrels, birds, or even deer tracks. Just quiet enough for you to go off path without thinking. My mom and grandpa used to warn me about losing focus in the woods. Mom said it was because I could trip and sprain my ankle. But my grandpa, he never really told me why. I never really knew much about my grandpa until he died in '86, which is when I learned his grandpa fought in the war between the states. His name was Bayou Casey, a tough rebel fighter, rumored to have fought and died near our rural town. Of course, I didn't know this as a kid. I just knew that finding the cobblestones foundation of an old wartime building was like finding gold. Well, that and the cool stuff left behind. To this day, I have never felt a quicker change in the air than when I laid my eyes on the pile of rotting wood, surrounded by a 3-foot tall cobblestone wall and chimney. The hair stood up on the back of my neck, and a combination of anxiety and curiosity overtook me, driving me to climb into the remnants of the old, moss-covered structure. The air turned my eyes dry, forcing an involuntary blink. When they had opened, a man wearing gray barked orders at us as explosions rang out everywhere. I propped up my rifle on the fence outside the fort and fired into the advancing line of blue-clad soldiers. One screamed and held his stomach as I saw his ornate uniform turn red. Another shot rang out, followed by an ear-piercing ring and an insufferable heat in my chest. My knees buckled, and the dirt was cold. The more I tried to breathe, the more my head hurt. I instinctively reached for my pocket and fumbled a photograph of a woman out, alongside a small metal plate, reading Casey. My vision turned black, and I felt at peace. After what seemed like an eternity, I opened my eyes and launched myself over the cobblestone wall. I've never sprinted faster in my life than I did that day. On my way home, a couple of people on the trail approached me and asked me where I was. They said I had been gone for a week, and that everybody in town was looking for me. I will never return to those woods.